All right, I'll go ahead and introduce myself then. My name is Sarah Kidwell. I am one of the Education Abroad Advisors here at the University of Alabama. I will be moderating this session, so if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. You are not required to put on your video or your mic, but if you feel like you want to, you are more than welcome to if you have any questions. This session will be recorded though, so please keep that in mind. And I will let Dr. Pitts take it away.
All right, guys, so I can only see one of you, and that would be Mark. So hey, Mark, and hello to everyone else who's out there. I am so excited to be able to present this to you today. I'm from Ireland, born, raised, educated there. I have been with the University of Alabama for a number of years, and I have wanted to do this forever. So this is a dream of mine to actually get to bring students there. And hopefully some of you will be coming with me. So Ireland is a tiny island. It's in the middle of the Atlantic. And as such, if you come, you will see a whole lot of water and a whole lot of rocks. I'm actually a geologist, and so you'll see in the photographs that there's a heavy focus on water and rocks, and that's because that's what makes up a large part of our island. I'm with the geography department here, which you may know is an interdisciplinary department, and we focus on both physical geography and human geography. And my specialty is actually in water resource management and groundwater in particular. And I've started recently doing more research into water policy and watershed science. So I am an American citizen, but I'm also a citizen of Ireland and the EU, and I spend about 3 months there each year. So I'm still very much in touch with it. Most of my family are there and a lot of my friends. So this will be the first year that this program goes. And if nothing else, you can learn a little Irish. So I don't know if any of you know, but Irish is actually a different language. It's not just my accent, it's a different language. So the two phrases up there on that screen are Tógéid míle fáilte roas, which means 100,000 welcomes to you. And then the last one is Slán agus Beannacht, which is how we say bye, but it's basically health and blessings to you. That's the goal in Ireland. So, as I said, Ireland has had a very long history of occupation, and so there's a wealth of cultural and historic stories to weave together, all dictated by really the physical aspects of the country too. And so what I'm trying to do is give each of you a chance to become completely immersed in all things related to Ireland, both now, in the past, and then with a view to the future. And I think it's a pretty unique opportunity for you, given that Ireland is at a turning point and the EU is at a turning point, and there's so many things going on there now. We'll start off in Dublin, which is the capital. It's on the east coast, about halfway up, and we'll fly into Dublin. And we'll spend 2 days there. The plan right now is to get a hop on, hop off again kind of bus tour where we go and take in the major sites at our leisure over a 2-day period. From there, we'll move down the coast. We'll go to look at islands, and I've said offshore and on, and I know that sounds insane. Ireland is an island in and of itself, but it's surrounded by tiny islands as well. And then we have inland islands. So you'll learn all about the physical components of that. As I said, we have a long history of occupation on the island. That's not that long a history there. Those are actually my 3 kids on one of our summer jaunts there. But there's castles and piles of rocks and ruins everywhere. Some of them are worth a visit, some of them we'll just pass and wave at as we go. And then water. Water is so important from the perspective of navigation, commerce, trade, but also the mystical and recreational components of it. And so we'll delve off into that a little bit as well. So before you go, you will do some readings made available to you through Blackboard. And then once we get in country, we will hit the ground and we will go nonstop. The general itinerary is there, so you can take a look at it again later if you wish. But we spend 2 days in the capital, then we work down the east coast through Wicklow to Wexford on the southeast tip. Then we cross the country through the Midlands, and then we end up on the west coast, where we explore the counties of Clare and Galway. We also take a ferry to the Aran Islands, where we will glamp. Not camp, it's way too cold and wet out there, but we'll glamp in these little pods. And I hope you can all ride bicycles, because the only transport on the island is via bicycle. Then we'll spend 2 days in Galway, which is kind of the hip and trendy capital of the country, so that should suit all of you very well. And then we return to Dublin. Assessment-wise, it's based on reading responses. And then by far the most important thing is your participation on a daily basis. We are not on vacation, we're on a learning expedition, which will be a lot of fun, but I expect you to behave in a way that's fitting for that. You'll take notes in field notebooks, you'll hand those in at the end, journal reflections, and then there's one research paper which will be handed in a week after we get back. So that's how the assessment is done. General dates right now, we arrive June 1st, which means you will leave June, we arrive June 2nd, so you will leave June 1st. And then we'll have from the 2nd to the 17th doing our tours. On the 18th, you will fly back to the US. This is one of the most ancient monastic sites in the central part of the country, and we'll actually stop en route somewhere else. In and of itself, it's not a site, but it's really beautiful. We'll look at glacial landscapes, so we'll learn about the physical aspects of that, and we'll actually hike through a glaciated valley, and that's it. It's absolutely spectacular. Most of these photos are ones I've taken over the years, and then some of them I've pilfered from friends. The accommodations are not set in stone yet, but generally you'll be sharing a bedroom. That's usually the norm in Ireland, given that accommodations are quite expensive. Certainly in the hostels you'll be sharing a bedroom, and then we'll glamp on the Aran Islands, which is those small islands offshore. Public transport is really only an option in the capital city. Once we get outside that, in the rural areas, we'll be on a private bus. We'll also take a ferry boat to the Aran Islands, where you will bicycle, and we will walk and hike a lot. Anyone got any questions yet? No? Okay. These are photos my daughter took actually 2 years ago in Galway. She spent the summer in Dublin and worked there and traveled around a good bit. But that's on the west coast. It's a university town. It's a lot of fun. We'll spend a few days there. This is one of the oldest lighthouses in Europe. It's on the southeast coast, and we will go there and take a tour as well. All right, so for the academics, it is Geography 449, so it's a permanent course in the catalogue. It's got 6 credit hours, and those hours are earned, as I said, through a combination of readings in advance and then actual participation in the course. Currently, it's been cross-listed with Blunt, so if anyone's in the Blunt program, you can use it as hours towards your BUI 301 electives. And currently one other department is looking at it with a view to cross-listing as well. But even if it's not cross-listed with your department or for your program, it would be worth asking them to consider it as an elective, given that it's an interdisciplinary program. So it's very broad and has a lot of areas that touch on a lot of areas of your disciplines and majors. These are structures called dolmens, and they are actually highly contested in terms of what they're for. The old school thought that they were burial mounds in areas where there was not enough soil to bury people, and the body was placed in underneath those rocks. But you'll explore that in your readings. I just wanted to show you some. There is no typical day, so when we were asked to come up with one, I had a hard time. So as I said, we'll do public transport in the cities, a private bus in the rural areas, biking, boats, ferries. Sunset in June is not till around 10 or 10:30, so that takes a lot of getting used to. but it means we have long days to explore, which is great for me. You may be done with me at some point. Obviously, there's built-in free time for you to explore, etc. And there'll be some evening programs throughout. Obviously, the itinerary is not set yet. Packing, this is hilarious. I don't know if you can even read all this, but my daughter stopped by last night and she was like, Mom, you cannot tell them all that now. It's like, yeah, I can. One bag only, right? You're going to have to lump that thing around for 2.5 weeks. No one's going to help you because everyone has their own one bag. You won't have a lot of space to put it in our accommodations, and you don't want it to become a liability. So layering is really important in Ireland. It can be hot, it can be quite cool very quickly. So just sensible layering, quick dry, etc. is good. We're going to walk a ton. So you better have some good hiking boots, trainers, chacos or tivas are fine, but only on some days when our walking is more limited. You're not going to need any dress shoes of any kind. We're not going to be dressing up and going out that much. We'll be going out, but not dressing up. So laundry will be done, but not every night or everywhere we go. And drying can be a problem. I know that sounds insane, but dryers are not as big and efficient as the ones here. And so it can take some time to get that laundry taken care of. The average temperatures in June range from 55 to 70. So you will be layering with, long sleeve tees, fleeces, light rain shawls, etc. And then we use a different type of socket, so you'll have to get a power adapter. And I have never used a voltage converter, but they recommend it for some things because we actually use a different voltage in Ireland. So if you have some expensive electronics, leave them at home. If you really want to bring them, make sure you do get that converter or you can fry it, which we don't want you to do. Let's see. So no presentation on Ireland would be complete without the patchwork green fields that you see everywhere, and they do exist. And that's a photo taken actually in Tipperary last summer, or the summer before last. The euro is the currency that's used in Ireland, and it costs $1 to get 85 cents in euro. So that's just your conversion rate. Obviously that fluctuates, and it may not be that next summer when we go. You will have to have a valid passport to leave and enter the US, but you don't need a visa for Ireland if you are an American citizen. If you're not, there are some very limited countries where a visa is required, and if that's applicable to you, we can certainly talk about that later. We'll go to one of the national parks. This is out in Connemara. Notice no trees, and you will learn why. It's beautiful, it's wild, it's close to Galway, where we'll end up our tour. As far as COVID-19 goes, we have to have clearance from the State Department to travel abroad, and we are very hopeful that that will be forthcoming in time for next summer. As far as what's happening in Ireland and Europe in general with COVID, they've generally fared better than we have here. And I'm hopeful that situation will continue. My son is actually studying in Wales right now, so he's there now and everything seems to be just fine. This is a small privately owned farm holding in my home county, actually owned by my family. It's absolutely beautiful, and we will visit there on one of our evenings when we're in Wexford. This is some photos from the glamping. This is the tip end of Inishmore, which is the biggest of the Aran Islands, and that's the little glamping pods that we'll be staying in. So very basic, but very nice, and essential not to be in a tent out there, you get blown away. This is the Raven Nature Reserve, which is another protected area of coastline, also very close to my hometown, and we'll do some hikes there as well. I know Sarah can cover all of the other stuff that's going on. I went through that super fast because I'm very hopeful you all have lots of questions for me. I can only 2 names out here, so I'll pick on people to ask me questions. But do you all have any questions?
We do have one question in the chat. Somebody said, when you said Ireland is at a turning point, can you explain what you meant by that?
Well, Ireland has had a series of advances, the Celtic Tiger with an economic boom and then a recession. It's had its focus change from an island that was colonized by the UK to one that was a free state. It's currently poised whereby, like many other countries in Europe, it's struggling with a decision over how nationalistic it is, how much part of the EU it wants to be, and really in what direction to take our economic growth. Ireland's biggest export for many years has been its people, and that's sad. We don't have a lot of economically exploitable natural resources, and so our biggest growth area has been technology and tourism. And so again, we're at another turning point now. How will we respond to COVID? Will we march forward and be part of a new forward-thinking Europe, or will we be more nationalistic, as you've seen with many of the other European countries? So, does that answer your question, whoever asked?
I think that was a pretty good answer. He said yes, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? All of the instruction, most of the instruction will be done by me. At some of the sites, we'll have guided tours from experts in their field. For each of the areas that we visit, I'll provide you readings in advance. I will be with you constantly, obviously, and I actually spend all of the summer there. So I'll be there before you get there, and I'll be there after you leave. And I hope that you'll get to really experience what the Irish culture is like, hopefully seeing it from an insider's perspective rather than just from, you know, an external view. That would be my goal.
So I'll ask some questions if no one else has any. Are you planning on moving this course online if you're unable to physically go abroad?
So first of all, I would be devastated if we don't go. But the plan is that it is not possible to go. I will do a virtual for 3 of those 6 for sure. I can easily do that. I'm not 100% sure if it's possible to do 6 hours online like that, but certainly if we have committed participants and that's something they're interested in doing, I can certainly expand on that. Again, as regards cross-listing with Blunt, I don't know, that would be a decision they would have to make as to whether they felt that sufficed for their credit hours. But yes, we could certainly make sure that there was a minimum of 3. And if students who are registered or interested in it needed it to be 6 for whatever reason, usually for graduation, I guess we could look at making alternative arrangements on a case-by-case basis for them.
Sounds good. Any other questions, y'all? You're welcome to drop them in the chat or even turn on your mic.
I could say some other stuff in Irish if you wanted.
Super Joe. When are the dates to apply? So the dates to apply, you can actually start applying right now. If you go on to studyabroad.ua.edu and search for the General app, so just type in General under the program search. It will pull up our General faculty-led application. You'll then be able to access the General app and tell them that you're interested in this program, complete the app and submit it. So it is currently open and it will remain open until mid-next semester, around mid-March, so you have some time. But the sooner the better to apply and let Dr. Pitts know that you're interested and committed.
Yeah, and anyone who's interested, please just go ahead and send me an email. My email is right there, and we can talk further and set up a Zoom about specifics that you're interested in. I know that perhaps with it being the first time, people might be hesitant, but I guarantee you, I know this country inside and out. Everywhere we're going, I've been 1,000 times. So I'm very confident that what we've put together is the best things to see in the time that we have. I think it's going to be a great trip. I'm excited.
Any other questions, y'all? Feel free to drop them in.
How are you all doing out there in Zoom land? You all tired of classes on Zoom? I'm tired of classes on Zoom. I had a class the other day that was supposed to end at 5:45, and I think my students were so happy to be in a room with someone. They stayed till 6:20. It's the first time ever. I was like, okay, we need to go. And they were just like, talk to me. It's really strange. Yeah.
I was just doing 2 Zoom calls at once because, like, I had one for class that I forgot about because the class on Week at a Glance still says to be determined, but it's like a private meeting. It's for honors. It's with our mentors, and I forgot about it at first. And I woke up from a nap, and I'm like, oh yeah, I got to do that. And then I also had this, so like I'm just like looking back and forth, like giving each one like 30
I'm
seconds.
glad you joined us.
Well, my mom said when she went to Ireland, it was like one of the coolest places she's ever been. So I'm like, I gotta go. I gotta look into this.
Well, please look into it, and I plan to go every year until someone stops me. So anyway, you know, I may as well take people with if possible. I've had students over the years ask me to do this, and I have triplets who are 21. And so every year I would bring them and cousins and friends, and I just didn't have room or time or bandwidth to do this, but now I do. So this will be fun.
Somebody asked, will we be able to visit the famous pubs in Ireland?
Famous pubs, but of course. So pub culture in Ireland is—
I believe drinking age is different there.
It's very different. Pubs are a center of community. They have fantastic food. Many of them have playgrounds attached for children to go play. And obviously there's great pints of Guinness too, but they're very much community and social centers as opposed to just whatever they may be in other cultures. So absolutely we will visit pubs. You couldn't possibly appreciate the Irish culture without visiting a pub. And we'll definitely eat in pubs a lot. I think the legal age to consume alcohol in a pub in Ireland is 18. So moderation in all things.
Well, I'm going to head out because I'm going to go to another Zoom meeting, but thank you for your time.
Thank you for coming, and shoot me an email if you want to find out more or you're interested or whatever. You just want
I will do. Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye. Anyone else got any questions? You want to see some more of those cool pictures again? Makes me so happy. I was doing it the other day and it was the best part of my work day. That's gorgeous. So that's actually protected area. You can't build on it. You can't drive on it. You can do nothing. It's an estuary, so it's a river and the ocean together. It's about 5 miles from where I was born. This is really interesting. This small farm that my brother bought. He's actually a medical doctor, and he retired a few years ago and moved back to Ireland and bought this area, and he's trying to put it back into the original type of land cover and farming. So he's doing like a sustainable closed system approach and putting back in some of the original livestock. And a part of the farm is actually under conservation as well. And so there's some threatened and endangered plant species there. from a geomorphic perspective, it's really interesting as well. We'll go to Connemara, as I said. And then a lot of bodies of water, and this is an inlet in Galway Bay, have castles that were fortresses for the noblemen, and they built so that they could live on the top floor, put animals on the bottom, but they could also watch out. So it was kind of a security thing as well. Talked about the dolmens. We'll actually walk to this lighthouse. You can drive, but I like to do things the hard way so you appreciate it when you get there. But there's an 8-kilometer walk from another town further down the coast, which we'll approach it to and then do the tour and hope it's a sunny day. In this area, there's actually a monastery, a ruin of a monastery back in the foreground where we'll start from the parking lot. And then we'll do a hike that goes up over the top of the mountain and actually all the way down to the other end and back. And that's a glaciated valley, as is that. This is another abbey, one of the oldest ones in the southeast of Ireland. And they've actually got an exhibit inside, and they've used funds from An Taisce to try to restore it. So it's been quite successful, as is that one. Many of our beautiful old antiquities fell into disrepair during the 60s and 70s. And then there was a kind of a renewal of interest in them and an attempt to try to preserve them for posterity. So we've done quite a good job with many of them, but sadly some have just completely fallen into a heap of rock. This almost looks tropical. That's actually an island off the south coast that's been reserved for birds. And when I was about 7, I was out there on a Saturday with my family, and I saw a bird hatch out of its egg on these cliffs, and I'd never seen that before. It was amazing, amazing to watch. But it's got some really amazing birds that don't exist anywhere else in Europe. So it's got its own little kind of microclimate. And then that's one of the side streets off of Grafton Street, which is the main shopping area on the south side of the city. And that's actually very close to where Trinity is. And whoever asked the questions about the pubs, you can see lots of them down that side street right there. And then that's an aerial view of the city. If you look out there, you can see that mountain. That's actually the Wicklow mountain. Mountain is the top part that I showed you we would travel to on day 3. And then this is a UNESCO site. There's a geopark here. It's quite spectacular. And these cliffs are part of the Burren, which I think we go to day 9 or 10. But we then take a ferry from this coast over to the islands where we glamp and stay there. And the two are almost a mirror image of each other because the geology is the same. So
do you all ferry from Doolin? Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so I studied geology in Trinity, and then I did hydrogeology in London. But I love all of the kind of connections between surface and groundwater. When I first came to Alabama, I couldn't understand why anyone here was ever a geologist because I couldn't see any rocks. You know, if you grew up in Ireland, it's just a big rock. So it makes sense to be a geologist. But I've spent 25 years trying to figure that out here. Brooke, do you have any questions? You're the only one I can see, so I'm picking on you. No?
No, I think you answered everything. My good friend went to Ireland last summer, and she said it was amazing. And so I knew, like, I had to look at this. And
yeah. Well, if you have any questions later on, you can just send me an email.
Okay.
Now no one else will turn on their camera because I might pick on them.
There's a Holly and a Braden. Braden's been asking a lot of questions.
Did Braden ask about the pub culture?
He did. We won't give him a hard time though.
No, it's a very important part of our culture. It is indeed. In fact, we'll go to the Guinness storehouse while we're in Dublin and see how they make Guinness. And I have it on good authority that they might even give you a pint of Guinness at the end of your tour.
Maybe. Ireland is the only country that I have visited twice so far in my life.
Well, that's a good sign.
I know, right?
Yeah.
In both times, we went to Guinness. It was required for the trip. But yeah.
Well, I told you my daughter was there last summer. She got a job, actually, it's so funny, in a summer camp for foreign students, so French and Spanish coming to Dublin to learn to speak English, of all things. But she went to the Guinness store, and she was kind of by way of a guide because a lot of the other people who worked there weren't Irish. And so she is dual, but she felt like she knew more than they did, so she was touring them around the city.
So that sometimes. I was about to say, take advantage of the international city that is Dublin. It does have a lot of major international restaurants and people, and yeah.
Yeah, it's a big hub. It's certainly very different to when I was there at school.
All right, well, our time is up. If y'all have any questions, feel free to shoot Dr. Pitts an email or go ahead and start your application. They said, thank you for your time. I will talk with my parents about this. So we appreciate y'all being here. We appreciate y'all coming to the session, and it will be recorded and posted online either later this week or the beginning of next week. Thank you, Dr. Pitts.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye, y'all.